have just time for one or two more questions. Just.
No, sorry, we'll get you next.
Roger Gilpin from Gilpin Executive Search. One of the things that sets you maybe a bit different there was the proposal for a 400 million sustainable bond. Can you explain what that is, where the money's coming from, what you're going to do with it, and how realistic is it for the banks to stump up a quarter of that?
Well, you know, I think that the banks and the discussions around how banks have, through their own processes over the course of recent times, not just in the south but in the north as well, have had a major impact on our economic prospects. Sinn Féin is very strongly of the view that the banks need to contribute. There isn't a meeting that Peter Robinson and I go to with SMEs, with people from the business community, from chambers such as this, with IBEC, with the CBA, where people, first item on the agenda is huge complaints about the refusal of the banks to lend, even to businesses that have, you know, hugely viable projects and which are being consistently denied access to funds. So we believe that there is a responsibility on the banks to effectively stump up, to recognise that they too have got responsibilities. When we look, for example, at the huge bonuses that are being paid out to chief executives and directors within banking, you know, many people within society and in working class communities, and indeed shared by many within middle class communities, are absolutely outraged at the funds which has effectively been paid into the coffers of very senior executives. So the banks are making huge profits, and we believe that the banks have got a duty and a responsibility to use some of those profits to assist the effort to pull us out of the recession, which is clearly impacting very negatively on our economy at the present time. So we believe that the development of the bond to which they would contribute is something that would allow us to be very innovative and very diversified in terms of how we move forward to support economic initiatives. But it'll only happen if all sectors within our society are prepared to make a contribution, and we believe that the banks have a responsibility to face up to the failure at the moment, for example, to fund SMEs in a way that will assist rapid progress out of the recession, and to further fund programs and processes which will allow us to be innovative in the future vis-a-vis using those funds for the benefit of the business community, for our entire society.
Thank you. Rory?
Hi, Rory Scullion of Premier Electrics. Again, sort of stole my thunder a little bit. It was to talk about the banking situation in Northern Ireland. And I'm wondering, has the executive, you talked about a bond there, but has it specific support that it can offer to indigenous SMEs? The foreign direct investment in the companies coming from the States and elsewhere, and thanks to Ben for that, are great, but they'll be well enough financed and will be supported by their own banking and their own banking infrastructure. Indigenous companies within Northern Ireland are finding that very, very difficult. We would have a lot now of, we do quite a bit of exporting, with a lot of multi-million euro export contracts, and we're finding it very, very, very difficult to oil the wheels, and there doesn't seem to be any prospect of anything improving within 5 years. That needs to be fast-tracked somehow by the executive in a very real way, because Northern Ireland is being treated, I think, as a very different entity than anywhere else throughout the United Kingdom.
Well, I mean, earlier in my speech I referred to the importance of Indigenous business and how, against the backdrop of very difficult decades past, they were the mainstay, effectively, of our economy. But I mean, during the course of the last 4 years, we took decisions to keep manufacturing rates at 30%, and that effectively supports something like 50,000 people employed in manufacturing and small business. And I know that was widely welcomed within the business community. We've supported the small business rate relief for 16,000 small businesses. And of course, we've delivered Project Kelvin, which is a transatlantic telecoms cable to the northwest, which will, in our opinion, help to attract more inward investment. We've secured 130 million for sports stadia, construction and redevelopment, something that will have a major impact, not just in terms of meeting the strategic needs of the major sporting organisations, but also in terms of encouraging young people to become involved in sports and so improve people's health, lower the high incidence of obesity that's clearly there at the moment. And apart from all of that, we've delivered something like 4 billion, as I said earlier, for important infrastructure investment. And we're consistently challenging ourselves to see what more can be done. So I think that those people who have other ideas and suggestions, as they did have during the course of the discussion around the manufacturing rates, should be consistently lobbying all of the departments at the executive. We have a very open door policy, and we're very keen to work in a spirit of partnership and cooperation with the business community.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I think time has gone against us, so I'm going to have to end the questions at that point. But could I ask you to join with me in a round of applause and appreciation?
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you.